do not be a slave to your past traumas. Stop holding the future responsible for your past. Stop holding people in your life, whether it's people at your work, whether it's people at school, people at home, mothers, fathers, spouses, loved ones. Stop holding them responsible for what's happened to you in the past. Today we're going to talk about the war, the fight between what I like to call equity and reactivity. Now, when I say equity, I'm not talking about like the DEI type of equity or the equity you negotiate in your employment agreement. I'm not talking about the equity you can buy on the stock market or by investing in a company. I'm talking about the equity that you build and maintain, the equity that you invest in when you make the right decisions with your relationships. For instance, say you have subordinates, say you're in the military, or a child or someone who works for you. The way you want to think about equity is every time you make a good decision, to take a moment to pause and listen to them, to not react negatively or snap, or to jump to conclusions or lose your temper. Every time you make a decision not to do that and do the opposite, you're building equity. But every time you're reactive, when you're quick to judge, you lose your temper, you scream, you yell, you don't listen or say, "No, sorry, I don't have time right now," or anything like that, you lose equity. What gives a lot of people problems with this is every time you do something good, it's like you're gaining 5 cents of equity. But when you do something negative, it's like you're losing $5 of that equity. I like to think of it like an emotional health bank account. Choosing to always think of this analogy and to live by this principle, I think is one of the best leadership and relationship principles that I've ever learned. So let's talk about reactivity for a second. The challenge with reactivity is most of the times when we're reactive and we look back and say, "I wish I wouldn't have done that," that's driven by something that's happened to you in the past. In the past where you may have experienced some sort of trauma. It doesn't have to be a big time physical trauma or a life-changing experience. It could be that, but it could also just be something in the past. Maybe you gave a speech and you failed and you were embarrassed, or a boss called you out in front of the people that you're working with and you were embarrassed and you never let that go, or something happened in your childhood, but it's some sort of micro or macro trauma that's happened to you. That's what's making you reactive in the way that you're not happy with. Traumas are real. We can't ignore them. We must acknowledge them, but we have to take on the attitude that traumas are not like a boogeyman. They're not insurmountable. A lot of the times it takes a lot of therapy to get past your traumas. But in the meantime, if you're not in therapy, which I do recommend, if you're not in therapy, focus on just putting that trauma on a leash by learning how to just take a quick pause. And like I always say, have some sort of reminder, something on your phone or watch or something that reminds you just to take that pause, and then you'll know what to do. So when you take that pause with this fight, what I want you to think about is, in this moment, how can I make this relationship stronger? It doesn't matter how intense the conflict is. You ask yourself, how can I come out on the other side of this conflict with a stronger relationship than what I had before? And the minute you take that pause and ask yourself that, you're now on the track to becoming a master. And once you've asked yourself that question, you can now say, do I need to take a step back and ask a question? Do I need to just apologize for a moment? Or do I need to say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not prepared to have this conversation right now because I'm really emotional and I'm running hot. But would you mind maybe talking about this tomorrow or later today when I'm in a better place and I feel like I can accurately express myself?" Ask a question like that because what it's showing is thoughtfulness. It's showing love if it's a romantic relationship, but most importantly, it's showing respect. Because remember, that one bad choice, that one reactive choice will lose 10 to 15 times of the amount of equity that a good choice will deposit. So I conclude, invest in equity. It compounds. Invest in your reputation. You're going to need that for a while. And do not be a slave to your past traumas. Do not be reactive. Do not keep doing the same thing and put shackles on yourself.